Hi. If you are listening to a fan in the backdrop, I'm very sorry, but it's extremely hot here. Okay, and I still do not have AC, but I think this year I'm going to get it. Not even if it's one of those small portable units, but I think I'm going to spend some money and buy one because this year, especially, the heat has been terrible for me. Maybe because I'm a bit under the weather, let's call it like this. My health is not that good. But uh, uh, how can I say this? The heat has been hitting me real hard, okay? I took some days off of work, vacation, in the hopes that I could do some things that I need to do around the house, and I, I, I will be totally honest and say that I was not able to do absolutely nothing, okay? Because I felt really tired, uh, with a lot of pain in my muscles. Okay, and it's not related to my health care, my health problems. Okay, that I have. It really hit me. Okay, now having vented out a bit of my frustration with the heat and myself, let's get down to business, shall we? Now, I decided to make this video because I think it's important for people to take a step back and have some perspective on things. Now, in American media, I am seeing people panicking and going from one extreme to another without finding some middle ground and look at things objectively. Right? They are comparing what is happening now to what happened during the Iraq wars with Bush and all the disinformation that was abundant and that fooled a lot of people, but didn't fool so many people as people say. Okay. Now, number one. Yes, it's true. They are using the same type of rhetoric. They are using the same type of procedures. Let's call it like that. Meaning, uh, saying things like Iran has a capability to do this, to that. They are going to do this. They are going to do that. Then you have others screaming, "This is World War III," and this and that, and blah blah blah. Absolutely true. But number one, that rhetoric is not dragging anyone else except American public into the fray of war. It's not dragging Europeans. It's not dragging other nations in the world. In fact, what other nations are doing is they are trying to stop this shit and to calm down. So this is the first aspect that you must see because must understand. Sorry, because when the Iraq War came, okay, and I remembered, of course, I was in high school. When it came, there was a massive campaign, even here in Europe, supporting it and saying things like, for example, Saddam had ballistic missiles that could hit Europe. Okay, he had chemical weapons that could release plagues into the world. A lot of shit. And to tell you the truth, even I, as a young kid, some of it made sense to me because that was the information that we had. Okay, we didn't have. You have to remember that when I was in high school, internet around here was something very distant. Okay, it was just something that when you were in computer classes in school, you would use to go to some weird sites with weird animations and bad things and just work. Okay, it wasn't. We did not have sorry this society soaked in information. Hmm? Okay, just for you to understand. So we basically had the TV and the news. Around here, I think we had 4 channels still, just 4 channels. So, but continue. And right now we have a completely different situation. I told you before, I speak a lot of languages and I can access information in more than one language from more than one source. But today, if you are able, for example, to speak English and a bit of French, okay, maybe a bit of Portuguese and a bit of Castilian, that's Spanish, okay, you can access information from all over the world, really. And if you go to any major network, even a Chinese network, Japanese network, Korean network, they have channels in English. So you can access their perspective too. And that is very good for everybody. If you are in the USA, for example, if you want to know what is really happening in your country, access European news because we are, we are the ones that are still mildly interested in your country. Not to mention Canada, of course, right? Or Mexico. But we are the ones that still try to understand what the hell is happening in your country. The rest of the world is pretty much looking at you as the court of King Nero the Mad and his misadventures. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. Everyone, of course, is interested when there are consequences that directly affect them and their country. Okay, this is not normal. But it's not that type of attention in which you pay attention to the fine details, okay, the little things that makes things compute. Let's call it like this. And what am I seeing here? There's a lot of warmongering as an excuse to, let's call this, justify a political idea that could not work, that will not work. And that is the program of the current American government. You cannot, even the president is now targeting blue states and telling ICE to lay off the hotels, the restaurants, and the farming industry because he is, with these policies, basically destroying his own base of support and the people that are really producing and paying taxes. Okay, farmers produce a lot of wealth, a lot of wealth, and they feed people, and people need to see stocked shelves in the supermarket to feel safe, and they need to have at least enough money to feed themselves, to have a house and whatever, and uh, that is living. But the issue here is this: you can distract people for a while, but it won't work. And what is happening now? Do you know what the response of China was to the tariffs? You know, to them, American farmers. Although all that massive production of meat, of assorted farming products that was going to China, China is now sourcing it from other places, especially South America. And those market shares are diverting. And no one will then change a relatively safe source for goods, in this case South America, for a place that can change overnight from position A to position B. Add to that the fact that those new suppliers want to keep them happy. So they will bend their knee to supply them with more goods at a better price. Think about this. Okay, it's like when cheers, some juice. It's like when you get yourself a new girlfriend, you know, and you want to make sure if you really like her or your boyfriend, whatever, okay, and you want to make sure that she really likes you, okay, then you try to curve your defects that everyone has, at least until you both get to know each other a little better. You know her defects, she knows yours, okay, and you continue to be comfortable with that, and you still like her, and she still likes you. This is why one of the reasons perhaps many relationships don't work, because people don't give themselves time to get to know each other and get to accept each other, because no one is perfect. Okay, where did I go? Now, why on earth then would you put a war in the mix? Look at Iran. The regime was being highly criticized, and it was being actually changed from within, as it should. You know, countries have a right to try and carve different paths for themselves as long as they don't attack their neighbors. And if we fall into all of this rhetoric, we won't be able to see objectively what was happening. Is there a support for terrorism inside of Iran? Yes. Yes, there are proofs about it. But is it the entire society? Is it all the groups? No. There are also proofs about that. Okay. Israel has supported terrorist groups outside of its borders when it benefits them. And so has the USA, and so have a lot of countries. That is called strategic thinking, okay? Sometimes they destabilize an opponent or a competitor in order to obtain themselves advantages. So I'm not looking at this from a moral or ethical point of view. I'm looking at this from a factual and logic point of view. But the only thing I can say is that each time the West, in the sense of the rest of the world, let's call it like this, is on the verge of obtaining an agreement with Iran regarding their nuclear production, which, for better and for worse, is a legitimate objective. Okay, even if people tell me things like, for example, so well, but if they blow you and themselves with a nuclear weapon, in their idea, they are going to heaven. Yes, that is true. But what is also true is that one way or another, if they want to produce energy on nuclear, they will. And if they want to produce a nuclear weapon, they will. If a kid in the 50s, or I think it was in the 50s, in the USA, produced a nuclear weapon in his dad's garage, so can the Iranian state. And also to be a hypocrite and say that if Israel does not have a nuclear bomb, when we all know it has it, it's documented, it's spoken about it, it has been implied. The fact that they say, no, we don't have, for me, it's the same as saying, no, we don't have. It has no meaning at all. And furthermore, they have the USA's nuclear weapons. Israel is under their umbrella. And you have a country that's an opponent and a competitor to Israel, and Israel is doing things it should not and could not do, especially for a country that was founded by people that were running, let's call it like this. Running is a harsh is not the correct word, but that were resettled because they were being targeted by genocide to now take actions that are in practice the same thing. Because if you are expelling people, if you are attacking people for whatever look for whatever reasons, if you are doing the same thing, then you are turning into the monster that you were running away from. I'm sorry. And then I will hear this. Oh, but they did Hamas, they are terrorists, and they did this and did that. Okay, and I will go back to the same joke that I heard Bill Burr, a guy that I don't particularly like. I don't even find him that amusing, but that he said something that completely puts this question, let's call it, to rest. If there was a terrorist with a baby in front of himself, you would shoot the baby to kill the terrorist? I wouldn't. Why? Because I'm always on the side of the civilians. Even if the civilians don't like me, even if the civilians consider me to be their Satan or whatever, I wouldn't do it. Why? Because the action of killing the civilians is my own. I cannot control how the terrorists will act. I cannot control that a group of terrorists decided to attack a music festival, kidnap people, and kill them, and rape them, and do whatever they did. I'm not even questioning that that happened. I know there are a lot of people that are questioning that happened, but to me, it's there are so many reports from so many different sources that it has to have happened. Did it happen in that exactly like that? Did all of those events happen exactly like they are telling them they happened? No, probably not, but it happened. It's the same thing that I tell people when they start to try to deny the Holocaust in World War II and all of that shit. I tell them to shut up. Oh, it's not physically possible to kill these many people in this many time, and I tell them shut up because we have facts. There are census, paper, paper documents, okay, that were not possible to forward because they come from so many different sources of the number of Jewish population in each country in the census, and you just have to go by the last name. Maybe they weren't all practicing Judaism, but they had Jewish people, but they had in their bloodlines people that practiced Judaism. Because we also have to think that, like a lot of Jewish historians have said, Judaism is a religion. Okay, there are no pure Jews, or whatever you want to call them. Pure Jews are the ones that stayed in Palestine and that either remained Jewish or converted to Christianity or to Islam or to whatever. After that, they mixed. A lot of Slavs converted to Judaism. A lot of Iberian converted to Judaism. So did some Greeks. So did some Arabs. Okay, because you have to put things into perspective and understand that more than a more than a religion, it's also a culture. Okay, and then you just have to put your madness to rest and let it sit. But when the I was talking about those revisionists of World War II, look, you are wasting your time trying to debunk things that were proven. And I'm not talking about Nuremberg judgments and American rhetoric and all of that crap. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about simply know that, for example, in the village of whatever, in the middle of Poland, X amount of the population was Jewish. When the Germans arrived and occupied that area, that Jewish population was relocated, so to speak. And by the end of the war, perhaps, I don't know, five people of that population were alive. Okay? There were 20,000. So if they are dead, if the Germans were governing the area, where did those people went? They were relocated in the east, like Hitler was telling the German population? Hmm? Or were they perhaps they dug a ditch, like we have pictures and footage, actual footage? They were shot and buried in a ditch. And you think that's all right? I don't. Even if you hated me, I would not advocate for you and your family to be killed in such a manner. Even if you were a terrorist, I would not advocate for you and your family to be killed in such a manner. Be killed at all. So, whenever people try to call anti-Semitic to those that are denouncing what is happening in Gaza, look, what the fuck are you talking about? And then say, oh, it's all a lie. My friends, I saw Jewish settlers in a boat, cruise like, parading on the coast of Gaza to watch the Palestinian cities burn. I watched a mother with her children, and it was not AI. Go fuck yourself if you think that. It was shot from three different perspectives. I watched the mother with her children walking with a white flag. And then I heard in one of the perspectives an Israeli IDF soldier laughing and shooting the mother in the leg just to watch her and her children scream in terror and pain. Oh, that's justifiable because they did this and did that. Or is it? What if it was your own mother? What if you were one of those kids? How would you feel? But of course, this is my Christian perspective that a lot of you in America seem to lack. Hmm? You know what my dad, who was a devout Catholic, told me? Put yourself in another person's shoes before you criticize them. I always try to do this. Always. He also told me a Christian is known by his actions and not his words. So, Dad, if you're listening to me, I'm acting up on my words and actually saying and doing something. But continue. Before we entered in the Gaza hole, we were talking about why a war now. To me, this is a bloody good distraction from what is really happening. And what is really happening in the US right now, and let me tell you this without any ambiguity or any attempts to explain, it's the simplest answers of it all: power and money. Look, we sometimes look for big excuses on things, but if you look at the Ukraine war, same thing: power and money. You look at Sudan, power and money. You look at Gaza, power, and money. You look at what what is happening in the USA: power and money. Excuse me. Sorry. And that is really what is happening. And this war now is a convenient uh, distraction because in the future they will be able to blame. I don't know if they are going, if a war is actually going to happen. Yesterday, I think, or today, I think it was yesterday. For example, diplomats met with the Iranian foreign minister in order to try and find a peaceful solution. Still, nothing has been decided because this is the early stage of the negotiation. But one thing is for certain: Iran will not negotiate until the bombing stops. Okay, Israel has this. They have to reach a ceasefire. People have to step out and calm down. But with Mr. Trump moving in carriers and cluster bombs and airplanes and other stuff into the Middle East, instead of helping the situation, he is actually worsening it. But I don't know if he is going actually to try to have a war because this time he will not have the support of Europe. And I think this is one of the things that he was not expecting. I don't know why he was not expecting it, but even the UK, that is basically, and I'm sorry, my British friends, but it's basically acting like a client state of the US. Even the UK, I think it's doubtful that they will send bodies to the ground. Let's call it like this. And if the US actually tries to have a war with Iran, it will be bloody and it will be worse, let's call it, it will be a worse place for Americans than any place else in the world. Because, look, as I told you, I have no sympathy for Iran. Okay, I don't like theocracies, I don't like dumb people, but I have sympathy for the civilians and for the people. I don't want Iranian civilians to suffer with this shit, even if they are religious radicals. I don't I don't wish this upon them because you shouldn't. Okay, you shouldn't wish evil on others. Okay, it pollutes your mind. It's not right, and you don't need a religion to tell you this. Okay, you as a person, you should know this. But if they try to enter there, it will be a bloodshed. Already, civilians are dying. More civilians will die. We don't know what the reaction of the Iranian military will be, but they are highly organized. This is not Iraq where Saddam said he had this and had that, and when it came down to it, he had nothing. He had a paper tiger army, okay, with the exception of some highly trained and skilled units that actually put up a fight. The rest pretty much crumbled. But Iran is not Iraq. First of all, Iran is a highly sophisticated and ancient culture. An Iranian once told me this many years ago, and I think he's right. Iran is like Europe in the Middle East, and he's right. Different culture, of course, different ethics, whatever, but they are highly evolved, and they are more evolved than the cultures around them. They are more evolved than the Iraqis. They are more evolved than the Hindustanic. Okay, sorry, but it's true. They are more at the level of a European culture than any other country in that region. So when you enter in Iran, the first thing you are going to be confronted with it's a very diverse environment. You will have mountainous areas, you'll have forests, you'll have desertic lands, you will have hilly terrains, you will have thousands, millions of towns and villages and cities. You will have a very high population. I don't know how many there are now. I don't 80 million, something like that, I think, or 90 million. Or I think it's around that. Okay, you will find all of that, and then you will find people that will actually team up. Even now, if you go to the people gathering asking for the war to stop in Iran, you will find people opposing the regime and supporting the regime together. Because, look, if someone invaded the USA, Republicans and Democrats would be in the same side. Have no doubt about it. Because when a situation like this happens, people gather. So, if you were trying to have a regime change like they were talking about in Iran, what you did now is going to stop that for at least 20 years more. And maybe, it's my opinion, that was the objective. Maybe the objective was to simply destroy the natural evolution of a regime like that. Because you see, you sometimes regime changes take time. Okay, Portugal was in a dictatorship from 1926 up until 1974, and organically, it was not very different from the regime you have in the in the in Iran, with the exception that we did not call ourselves a theocracy, but it was in fact a military and the oligarchy, the rich oligarchs, the militaries, and the church were dominating the country. So it was basically a theocracy in disguise. It wasn't a theocracy because it was in Western Europe and the state was already secular. But if for example things that the church is completely against, like for example divorce and abortion and all of that was in the letter of the law has banned, then you have a theocracy. This guy's one, but it's about the same bloody thing. But with this war, all of those efforts are gone, and they were really evolving. Okay, you found one women in Iran that were refusing to use the hijab, that were refusing a lot of things, that were demanding to be recognized as an equal member in society, which I totally support. This is my opinion. Okay, I think a woman has the same capability of doing anything that a man can do, and vice versa. I saw it in my life. I have been experiencing every day of my life. Okay, so anyone that tells me different is a dumb idiot. Okay, women are not toys. They are people just like you and me. So if you want to come with that macho rhetoric to my side, note that take ideas and all of that shit. Go fuck yourself. Okay, you are a weakling. If you believe in those shit, in that shit, you are a weakling. Okay, look, just a little intermezzo. You want to know who taught me how to use a knife, how to use a bow, how to do carpentry, do minor electric repairs, all of that shit? You want to know who taught me that? My mom. And my and my dad, he was a man with a capital M. Okay, but he was working. So my mom, she was raised with her grandparents, and my great grandfather, he was the chief carpenter master of the mines. in the town here in Portugal. And so he taught her all of that shit, carpentry, wood carving, all of that. And then she taught us. My mom also knew. She's still with me, so she still knows how to use a knife, if you know what I mean, an axe and a bow. And she taught us to carve all of those things, carving a bow, carving, using an axe, furniture, repair things, do things. So, and she had children. She was sick for a long period of my life in hospital, and she still did all of that. So when you and she made sure that each and every one of us knows how to clean your clothes, how to cook, how to clean. Because like my father told me when I was a kid, your mother is your mother. She's not your slave. So clean your shit up. He didn't have to tell me that, but he had to tell one of my brothers. He did have to tell him that because he. Let's carry on. So when you come with all that macho rhetoric, you are a damn fool. Okay? If you don't know how to treat a woman, you don't deserve either to be called a man or have a woman by your side. You deserve to be the well, little frustrated incel that you are. And if you are listening to those idiots that I mentioned, then you are even more of a fool. Because then you are being their bitch. Learn to think by yourselves and treat women as an equal. Stop being an idiot. Now, what I'm afraid right now is that this war is actually going to go through. That is not it is not going just to be a distraction for a couple of months so the American government can stabilize their situation and so that Israel can finish their fine work in Gaza. If it is all just that, then next year around this time all this shit will be over. If they invade the Middle East, then the Americans are in for a lot of pain because Europe will not go. Europe will not send bodies to the field. Europe will not even send military support, nothing. We will continue to do what we are doing now, which is to support Ukraine and maybe turn up the heat a bit, which is more than likely. And if this war happens, Europe will have twice the reason to turn up the heat in Ukraine. Oh, sorry, we cannot help you. We are too busy here. And also, this comes at a time when American arms companies were clearly banned from military procurement in Europe. So maybe they are needing another place to sell their weapons. Go guess. If you start connecting the dots, I think it's rather obvious that this is a war or a threat of a war that is only killing people and that is only benefiting two parties, Israel and the US. In US, the current government and the arms companies. Because you see, to be cut off from billions in weapons procurement in Europe, that really has to hit hard. But look, this is just my little rant on the subject. I hope it brought some light. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I enjoyed talking with you. I enjoy recording these videos. I might start doing some other videos in another model, but I will keep this model of just turning on the camera and talking. Why not? Have yourselves a good day or good night or whatever. Stay safe. If you are in America, stay safe. If you are in Israel, stay safe. If you are in Iran, stay safe. I hope all of this shit passes and that at least some normalcy comes back to our lives.